What event or incident happened at your job that caused a mass firing or mass quitting? Train company in Sweden. One day many years ago someone found a document stating some changes to overtime policy. It was just lying on a table in the middle of the break room. One copy only. Due to the nature of the business there tends to be a lot of shifting hours back and forth. Sometimes we, drivers, can get home hours and hours early, and other times we get horrendously late, hence overtime. This document stated that now overtime forms had to be filled for when we came home early, under time, so to speak. This otherwise already scheduled time would be withdrawn and the company would then be able to reuse that time. Negative overtime. One copy on a table, and a few hours later people had come in from all over in a major huff. There were outright and immediate resignations, shouting matches, phone calls to union representatives, a huge outcry overall. Date on the document and the day it was found, the 1st of April. Much fun was had. In a team of 30 IT consultants that had been working a big project for a couple years, the standing offer that governed rates, etc., had been defined and would continue for the next few years, but the renewal deadline for each of our individual contracts with the contracting company, middleman, was just a week away and we hadn't seen the paperwork, just promises that we were being renewed. Finally get the paperwork and see a 10% cut in rates. Quite surprised because the standing offer didn't have any such change. Contracting company says the client department renegotiated new rates by saying that another company could be used instead. We were shocked that the client would put such a big project at risk. People made inquiries. It turns out the client department made no such changes. The contracting company was just making a grab for a bigger piece of the pie. There was outrage. People quit, other yelled and got fired, etc. The company had to quickly backpedal and claim it was an administrative error. You're right, but the damage was done. It didn't end there though. About 6 months later a small group of consultants on another project merged with us. They had been working under the same contract vehicle. As we're getting to know these 5 guys, one of them says, that 30% cut 6 months ago was nasty. Turns out the company got from these guys what they couldn't get from us and these poor suckers hadn't known it was a fiction. Crap hits the fan once again. The 5 quit en masse. Problem was their jobs were critical. They got hired back with hefty raises, almost double their original if memory serves. Stupid, greedy company. I worked in the corporate headquarters for a large national retailer. After 20 years in business, the company was sold to an arrogant billionaire who put his son in charge. His first job after completing his MBA, the son decided to relocate headquarters 500 miles away, close to his dad's headquarters. He gave us 30 days notice to move with no moving compensation or lose our jobs. Out of 300 employees, 1 moved. I had already been looking for a job. The writing was on the wall. I accepted a new position the day after the announcement and gave 2 weeks notice. My boss went ballistic. Said, what are we supported to do? No one can fill your job here and we won't have anyone new until we move. You're not a team player. Bonus. The company was out of business within 60 days after the move. 4 months after the acquisition. They had spent $50 million to buy it. A friend of mine quit his job a year ago after the company was bought out by a place in Ohio that announced several things. Engineers would receive no raises in the foreseeable future because engineering was not the company's sole purpose. They slashed healthcare to the bone, and they changed dental plans to Delta, Ohio. Friend lives in MA, where nearly nothing was covered. His leaving was followed by nearly 1/4 of the engineering staff. Competing company in a similar but not identical line of business tried for years to replicate our product with no success. They scrapped the project and took the R&D money and bought our company instead. Fired 600 plus people in one day. I was one of them. I hear from those who remained the place is awful now. I was the lead cook in a $1 million kitchen at a multi-million dollar high-end restaurant. The executive chef had been there since they opened and worked his way from the bottom to the top in 4 years. That place was his whole life and he was completely dedicated to it. The absentee owners had hired a do-nothing, know-nothing manager. After weeks of complaining, the owners had a meeting with the manager and gave him a week to get on top of his job. The chef went on vacation that week. The manager saw that as an opportunity to buddy up with owners. A week and 2 rounds of golf later, the chef comes back to work to a pink slip. 27/30 employees came in and resigned immediately after. Sweet justice. After 2 years of belt tightening, wage reductions and broken promises, myself and a few others who remained on the job were told that the company didn't have any money. Then the owner's prick son rented a villa in Tuscany for 3 weeks, and his scumbag father used miles he accumulated on the company's dime. He flies first class from Florida to NY for meetings that could be done with a phone call. Now we know why. To fly the entire family there. Currently one partner is gearing up for a lawsuit, contract fraud, and myself and other former employees are gearing up to sue for wage theft. If you're crying poverty, don't vacation in a freaking Tuscan villa. Remember Walden Books, the bookstore in the mall? I had a friend who worked there as a store manager. They hired him to clean up the store. It was a total wreck, dozens of unopened shipment boxes crammed in the back room, behind the cash wrap, even under shelves. He found new releases from 3 months back that were never available to buy. It was really bad. On top of that, the district manager who hired him told him he had 3 weeks to get the store in order without extra hours and without sales dropping. If you've worked retail before, you know this is impossible. My friend argues with the DM and the DM basically tells him he doesn't care if they work off the clock to get it done. It will be done or he'll turn the entire staff, fire them. So for 3 weeks my friend and his staff worked 24/7, only clocking in for allotted shifts. My friend would even sleep in the back room in a sleeping bag. And miracle upon miracles, he got it cleaned up before the deadline. The deadline comes and the DM comes back with 2 LP operatives. They start pulling the staff one by one to the back and grill them until they get them to admit to working off the clock. When they get to my friend, he tells them outright that the DM told him to do it, and the DM sat there and denied the whole thing. So he says to the LP guys, how else would we get this done within the deadline time allotted? You knew what this store looked like before and you know how much time we had. The LP guys just looked at each other, then fired the entire staff. That same day a manager and 3 associates were hired. The DM already had them in the wings and was just waiting for my friend to get the store in working order to pass it off to his friend. Borders had a round of emails to management boiling down to if you would not do this job for free, then quit. So a lot of people did. My company has had a pay freeze for over 7 years. We've had 10+ employees quit in our office due to this. The work is rather hard and we are expected to work up to state standards, yet we are paid near minimum wage. We have patients' lives in our hands, for frick's sake. At this very moment, most people in my department at the hospital are looking for new jobs at our boss's insistence. The hospital is going to be laying off a bunch of us soon but refuses to tell us how many and when, or even what their criteria will be for deciding. My old workplace decided to do a complete overhaul of everyone's rotas. They went through an entire consultation period, asking people what they could and couldn't work, then completely ignored everyone's preferences and allocated shifts and rotas entirely based on the company's needs, completely invalidating the entire consultation period. People were being expected to work more unsociable hours and weekends, and nobody was pleased by these changes. A lot of people left. I worked at a Dave & Buster's in a fairly low income area. We had parties of 8 or more come in regularly, and they would run up $200 checks, which was fine since they had an automatic 18% gratuity for being such a large party. They decided to eliminate the large party gratuity option in hopes that it would inspire servers to work harder. Instead, we all started getting regularly stiffed on these massive checks. Within 3 weeks, over a third of our staff quit. This didn't happen to me. However, when I was in college, 2 of my professors worked at Core Entertainment, an animation special effects company. One day the owner gathered the top people into a boardroom and basically said, we are in a bit of a financial situation, so we can't pay anyone for this month. Just about all the senior people quit that day, and within a week, my 2 professors had jobs elsewhere. Someone peed in a watering can in the storeroom when I worked in a Kmart. No one came forward about it, so all the stocking staff who were on that night got sacked. Last year I briefly worked as a caterer. I only managed to work 3 gigs before I quit. The reason being that my boss tried to fit in 12 people into one minivan. He did this because he was charging everyone $10, so he benefited from it. At one point we all decided that it was stupid and reckless for 12 people to be inside a minivan, especially since we were all sitting in the back, Indian style. After arguing with him to get another car, we still went to work. After that day, I and a bunch of other people decided never to work there again. The government sequester in 2013. I worked for a parts supplier. 95% of our customers were military projects and government contractors. A lot of projects were cancelled, put on hold indefinitely. A lot of people in my company were laid off. I worked at a locally owned pizza shop, and I can say a combination of poor management and me quitting caused the business to go under completely. When I worked there, this was years ago, I was maybe 15-16. I got paid $5.35 an hour. I worked almost every day after school plus the rush nights. Thursday sun. Every week. I worked hard in there, in a crappy freaking sweaty, hot, smelly environment to get crap right and get it to the customers. I came in early on days when I didn't have school to make sauce, make dough, do kitchen prep, etc. After a while of this I went to my lazy butt boss and said, "Hey Pat, I do an awful lot of the work around here and I think I deserve a raise." Pat said, "Okay, we'll see what we can do." Fast forward to next paycheck. Sure enough, I got a raise. 5 freaking cents per hour. 5 cents. I said frick that. Went to Pat again to put in my 2 weeks. She told me how entitled I was acting and how my job title of line cook was a minimum wage position. I might as well have been the manager considering she took off promptly at 6 p.m. every night. Her 8 hours were 10 6-weekdays. Didn't work weekends, and left me and the crew to handle dinner rush. Anyway, long story short, I quit on the spot after the entitlement comment, walked inside to grab my crap, told the rest of the crew what happened, and everyone else walked out with me. Everyone. Both her drivers, both the other line cooks, and even the drunk sucker who was our dishwasher. Within 6 months that pizza shop, which had been in my town for at least a decade, possibly longer, was a hair salon with a new owner. My team of 5 was asked to replace a major piece of software that was critical to a large revenue generating department in 11 months. Normal timeline for implementation is 18-24 months, and we were on the larger side of facilities going to his software. We were already understaffed, and over the year we worked countless overtime hours, traveled to the software vendor for training many times and got the project ready on time. Go live was a mess of 12 straight 16+ hour days. But eventually we had the system in and stable and it started to make the department better. The staff were promised bonuses for meeting the deadline and not slipping the date, to be paid out from unused project funds. Despite hitting the go live date and having more than $1 million left in the project pot, the IT team was criticized for most of the issues that happened during the 12-day go live. The team lead was dismissed and no bonuses were paid out. Within 3 months, 3 of the 4 remaining members left, and all the positions are still unfilled. The one who was fired got multiple job offers the same day, and the 3 who left all got multiple offers within a month of the project ending. The team lost 30 years of experience in a week, simply because management wasn't willing to protect them. Ironically, the manager who threw the team lead under the bus was canned 6 weeks later. I work at an advertising agency in South Africa. We once had to do a Christmas festive season card for one of our major mobile networks, MTN. The concept was to show a summer road trip, an image of a map with stops at some of the major tourist attractions in the country. The idea being that wherever you go in South Africa, MTN has you covered. At each stop they gave a quirky description of the fun you could have there. A team then had to take the same concept and create a Christmas card for MTN Swaziland. Swaziland is a tiny landlocked country within SAR that's very badly run by a terrible king with 15 wives. The team created a card showing the tourist spots in Swaziland and made a quirky comment about seeing all the king's 15 wives spending like there's no tomorrow at a local mall. Needless to say, the card actually ended up going to King Mswati himself, who was very insulted. Swaziland is incredibly poor and the king is incredibly rich and abuses with his wealth, but doesn't want to come across that way. The king insisted that people were fired over the incident. People at MTN lost their jobs and we told Swaziland that people had been disciplined over the incident. Well, really, we all just thought it was ridiculous. Once, a few people got fired and or suspended from where I worked because of their involvement in a Super Bowl pool. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen and it all could have been avoided if the guy running it wasn't so brain dead. He was openly trying to recruit people to buy boxes on this grid he needed to fill. He was even asking managers at a company where gambling pools are forbidden. The company warned him about the rules, asked him to keep all talk of the pool outside of the building and suspended him. When he delayed payment of the prize money to the winner of the pool, the first place winner said he would punch his lights out if he didn't get paid. They fired both of them and a few other people were suspended for their involvement. Gather round, children, and let me regale you with a tale of retail misery and woe. About 7 years back I worked at Best Buy. My store was located across from one of the busiest malls in the Northeast, in an area that was a mix of lower and upper class. Around July, the store started doing one of those promotions wherein they offer you magazines at checkout. You sign up for 5 free ones, and then if you don't cancel you start getting charged the yearly subscription fee for them. The cashiers were incentivized to get as many magazine subscriptions as possible. As I worked loss prevention, I really didn't care at all about this program. I didn't care until October. Suddenly we started getting massive complaints about people getting charged for subscriptions who never signed up for them. It started as 1 or 2, and we just assumed they forgot to cancel. But soon, several dozen angry customers were complaining to us, corporate, and anyone who would listen. We started an investigation. Lots of OT and crappy hours going through camera footage and register logs. Turns out, one of the cashiers, who was never an okay employee even on her best day, figured out she could just sign people up for the magazines, even if they said no, as long as they were a rewards card member and their info was in the system. She used this to get record number of subscriptions, and won the weekly prizes every week, until the other cashiers caught on, and started doing the same. In the end, it turns out that every single front register area cashier had done this, except for one kid who was hired a few weeks before the investigation. Word came down from corporate that we had to fire every single cashier except for the new kid. Oh, and the day they handed down this judgment? The Friday before Black Friday. That's right. With 1 week to spare before the biggest shopping day of the year, we were ordered to fire all of our cashiers. As you can imagine, this did not go over well with management, but their hands were tied. So we tried to hire and train as many people as we could in a week. But as you can imagine, that Black Friday was chaos. Some employees worked 20 hours straight, 10 in their department and 10 on front register. All managers and supervisors worked close to 24 hours. They even tried to convince LP to lend a hand, to which we laughed, of course. I don't want to know how much they lost between the lawsuits from the customers for fraud and the labor board fines and complaints filed by employees held late on Black Friday. Worked a restaurant and we had 4 staff members leave when they found out one employee was promoted. The only reason she got the job was because she was fricking the grams. She was fired within the month for doing H on the job and now has a baby with a gigolo. We saw the way the company was going. Suddenly contracts weren't being renewed and then people were getting fired for silly policy violations. Then they said we can't do raises this year, things like that. It was obvious they were getting ready to do mass layoffs, so most people walked before it happened. Sure enough, the week before Thanksgiving we were all given 2 weeks notice and told our jobs were now in the Philippines. Since I was in the IT department I was given an extra 4 weeks to help clear up. But I got a lucky break and so started a new job with much higher salary before the 2 weeks were up. The funny epilogue is that about 6 months later they wanted to hire me back with a 25% pay raise. I guess the outsourcing didn't work out so well. I politely told them where to shove their job. I worked at a summer camp and one of our kitchen staff members was fired because a helicopter mom thought that he had been rude to her precious little snowflake. So the staff all got together and a strong majority agreed that the snowflake had been a rude little crap in most of the class's activities and deserved to be told to sit the frick down and eat what everyone else has. So about 2/3 of the staff marched down to the camp office and sent in a representative who told the directors that if he goes we all go. The operations director claimed we couldn't get solidarity and this was just a stunt by 2 or 3 of us, but when he came outside he found 25 of his staffers with bags packed and ready to roll. The kitchen staffer was serving waffles the next morning like nothing had happened. Aircraft manufacturing job, laid off after 9/11. The loss of the Twin Towers, by use of jets built by the company I worked for, lost hundreds of orders, slowed our rate and subsequently laid off 40% of our workforce over 3 years. I worked in a tech support call center for some very crappy online backup software. The supervisors treat you like computers. They don't care about your feelings or workload. They just wanted short call times. They didn't care that you were snowed in or bedridden. If you call out you're written up. The place had a 155% turnover rate 1 year from people having enough. This year is on track for being the same. Personally, I quit when they tried to stop my wedding by calling me 2 days before my wedding and saying my time off wasn't approved. The time that had been put into the system and approved 6 months prior. What sucks is that the business probably won't go under anytime soon. The product rips people off so much that the company is making bank. And the economy is so bad that they know for every call center rep that quits, there's a poor sap that needs to pay rent to take their place. I worked for an airline as a mechanic. We had a 727 cargo jet in our hangar for months undergoing a D-check, a massive inspection and maintenance task that involves removing and replacing a lot of aircraft skin and structure, as well as wiring, equipment, etc. It is basically a massive overhaul of the aircraft. While this task is ongoing, the aircraft is lifted up on jacks that fit under the wings, nose and tail of the aircraft. Anyway, back to the skins being replaced. Lots and lots of panels were riveted into place over the course of weeks. Lots. When the day came to lower the aircraft, because all of the work was done, someone in charge forgot to place anybody on the tail jack. As all of the other jacks were slowly lowered, the tail jack suddenly punctured the mounting point at the tail and basically opened the tail like a zipper. It sounded like machine gun fire as the sheared rivets sprayed across the hangar. Within minutes, every person standing in that hangar was fired. Just about everyone was hired back the next day, but at that moment, some pretty important people lost their jobs permanently. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.